All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Today we're going to be going over my Garmin 126svs, okay? So I always get these questions about electronics and my setup and settings and all that stuff, so I want to walk you through everything. So one of the first things we're going to do, we're going to go into simulator mode. I'm going to explain some stuff from maps, your 2D sonar, down view, side imaging, and live scope, and then you can kind of base that off of how you want to set up your unit, and you'll kind of understand better about what each setting does and stuff like that. So we're really going to break all that down. So either way, stick around because this is something you don't want to miss. So before we jump into everything, guys, make sure to check out this video sponsored, Tolos. What Tolos is a company where you can take your trailer, whether that's, you know, a utility trailer, dump trailer, car trailer, marine trailer, any kind of trailer you can imagine, and you can post it online and actually rent it out to individuals like me and you. What this means is you can make passive income on something that's been sitting in your yard for I don't know how long, and then it helps out your community also for the people that don't want to go spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a trailer, especially when they're only using it maybe once a year. So make sure to check those guys out at Tolos.com. You can sign up for free. They have a protection plan so you can protect your investment, and I greatly appreciate them sponsoring this video. All right, guys, so one of the first things, I've got y'all turned around here so you're looking at exactly what I'm looking like. So imagine these beautiful hands of mine is yours. So basically everything down here is very simple. You can mark stuff, you've got the home, you've got the engine data, active trim, cruise, all this stuff, just basically info. And you know, the home, this is going to be the main thing that you're going to be using because it's got your charts, your sonar, your combos, your vessel, your gauges, all that stuff. Then, you know, obviously the where to, you can put that in, and then it's going to take you to where you want to go, all that stuff. This is your notification center, basically warnings and stuff like that, and that's going to be your menu. Okay, so anytime you're using this, this is where your menu is going to be, and you can edit your combos and all that good stuff. So let's start simple. Let's start with their maps because that's typically what everybody wants to know, like right off the get-go, so they can get going and understand where they're at on the water. We're going to hit home, and then you've got your labels right here at the bottom. We're going to hit charts, and we're going to go to fishing chart. So your fishing chart is going to be your chart basically that shows all your contours and stuff. This is what you're going to be using to find fish most of the time. Areas to look to find fish. First thing you want to do, you want to click the screen, and you know that makes the unit basically say, okay, he wants to do something with this particular map or something like that. We're going to click our three buttons over here. Then you're going to pull up layers, quick draw, and chart settings. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go into layers, and we're going to go to chart. Now you've got tides and currents. Now this is all going to be personal preference based on, you know, are you fishing deep sea and all that stuff. I just need specific data to get done what I need to get done. So tides, currents, land POIs, photo points, service points, all that stuff, I'm just going to turn that off. I don't really use that. It's not something that I actually need. And when you take a lot of that stuff off that you don't need, it will help your unit run a lot smoother. It won't lag as much. Now you've got your nav aid right here. Now your nav aid labels, I like to leave all those on because that's going to show like all your buoys and stuff like that. Just kind of like a safety thing. You guys that fish river systems a lot, something you definitely want to keep on. If you're fishing the same old lake, you know, you may want to turn it off, I guess. I don't really know. That's one of those personal preference things. I like to leave it on for safety reasons. Next, we're going to go into depth. This is going to be the most important thing. One of the first things you want to make sure is you got your fishing contours turned on. Now, I turn shallow shading off, but what the fishing contours is going to do, that's going to show up every single little detail on the map that you would need to help find fish, if that makes sense. And then the shallow shading, that's basically going to shade the shallow part, but we're going to do that in our custom depth shadings, and I'm going to show you exactly how I got mine set up. So first, I want to click the three dots right here, and then that's going to pull up all my shading, and I guess you can make this, you know, however long you want to. Those are the only ones that I use, but I go in 5-foot increments. So I go from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, so on, all the way up to 30 foot. And then when I get to 30 foot, I just do a 10-foot mark from 30 to 40 foot because that's pretty much water that I typically do not get into unless I'm fishing a highland reservoir. Now the color shading, that's all going to be personal preference, but I really want all my colors to pop, and I kind of know where everything's at. So red red, 0 to 5. Orange is going to be 5 to 10. 10 to 15 is going to be yellow. 15 to 20 green. 20 to 25 I like going with that pinkish purple color, and then 25 to 30 foot I like doing a dark blue, and then 30 to 40 the light blue. Now we're going to go back up out of here, and we're done with the chart. So I go to my vessel. So basically these I leave all these basically off, but we're going to go through each one of them. So the heading line, if you click on the heading line, you're going to get that long heading line sticking out of your boat vessel and stuff like that. Basically, a lot of people use it for brush piles and to figure out like where off limit areas is, how far they can fish from like the boat ramp, things like that. So that's personal preference. If you want to change it, you can go in here and just kind of change it however you want to. But me personally, I just leave it off, especially running. I kind of know where I'm at, know the speed of my boat, stuff like that. I'm just really comfortable with it off, but that's personal preference. If you're scoping and you're using your maps, you may want to use that. That way you know exactly how far you're out. Now active tracks, that's going to be your tracks obviously when you're driving, common sense stuff. And then we've got wind rows. So this is basically it's going to put a little circle around your boat. I don't know exactly how this works. I've never really used it. And then you've got the compass rows. That's going to tell you, about your your headings and stuff like that. So I don't use it either. I want to eliminate all the clutter that I can. Vessel icon, this is going to be personal preference. A lot of people like the small triangle. I don't, because it kind of blends in with my colors. So I typically run the small boat because I can just see it better. So that's all personal preference. If you got worse eyes than I do, you can bump it up all the way to a large boat, So it's just personal preference. I like small boat. Removes a lot of that clutter and I can see a little better. All right, so from here we're going to hit back and then manage user data. This is going to be your waypoints, boundaries. Don't mess with anything on that unless you know what you're doing or so you've got specific ways, but that's basically for your waypoints, stuff like that. Other vessels, I turn all this off basically because I don't have other vessels sending me data or anything like that, as far as like navigation and stuff like that. So there's no need for it to be on. There's no reason for it to be sending a signal or any of that stuff, whatever it does. So I just turn it off. Next I go to water. This is going to be the depth shading, your fishing contours, all that stuff. But basically when you go in the water, this is going to be the same thing as when you go to chart and you go to depth. It's the exact same thing. And then you got your quick draw. You can leave it on. I leave mine on, but basically what that is, you put a chip in here and then as you're driving, it'll map out your lake or maybe a little pond or something you got. So it's a really cool feature. So once we back out of here, we're going to go to chart settings and then map orientation. That's personal preference. Some people like north up, so like north up where north's always facing up. Some people like head up, some people like course up. Me personally, I'm a course up guy. I like the map to move around whichever direction I'm going because I can always put a compass up and tell exactly which way is the northern bank and stuff like that. But look ahead, that's a personal preference also. I leave it on. I like the center. I like being able to see all around my boat, if that makes sense. Vessel orientation, also do heading. But now the cool thing is you can leave it on auto and it ain't gonna make much of a difference. But I leave it on heading. It does a good job on auto also. Now here's the biggest thing, detail. When you click on it, most of the time it's gonna be on normal. Always put it on most. This is gonna give you every feature on the chart. All that good stuff. Chart size, you can choose, if you want a smaller chart or all that stuff. I leave mine on normal. That's a personal preference thing too, but most of the stuff you don't really have to do much to. World map, I turn it on full. I want to get as much detail as I can. Inset map, leave it on auto, and then that's pretty much all the settings that you need. Now you can click down here like I did. Once you back out of, we go back to chart settings. Once you hit back, you've got the rest of these. You can manage your waypoints, but edit overlays down here, you can click and then choose what you want on it, your GPS speed, your depth. One of the things that I definitely like to run, like right here, I'll run my GPS speed, my depth. Up here I like going to temperature, I like going water temp, and then right here I like going all the way down to system and then unit voltage, and that tells me exactly, you know, how many volts and stuff like that I'm getting. And then that way, if I've got my map pulled up, just straight up maps, you know, I've got the water temp, I've got the depth, I've got the speed I'm cruising, and the voltage, so I ain't got to worry about running out of juice. Next, we're going to go home, and then we're going to go to sonars, and then first we're going to go to traditional sonar, okay? Now, a lot of this is going to be personal preference, and I'm going to help walk you through this on how you want to set this up. This is mainly going to be for when I'm running on pad, okay? So when I'm running on pad, my combo that I like to run is my fishing navigation and then my 2D sonar right here, and that way while I'm running I can run up to 40 miles an hour and get plenty of detail and know what I'm seeing. I can find bait fish and stuff like that, and you know, it's just a good way to cover a lot of water and find a lot of fish. But one of the main things that I'm going to do is when I click on this screen, you got 3 buttons down here, you've got gain. So let's talk about gain. With your gain on your 2D sonar, the cool thing is 2D sonar has come so far, you don't really ever have to mess with it. It's basically good right out of the box. Frequency, you got 180 kilohertz, and then you've also got high chirp. I typically run high chirp 99% of the time if the water's real bad, dirtied up or anything like that. I mean, it's just 2D's has come such a long ways, you don't really have to change anything. Beam width, you've got chirp, is basically set on 19 degrees. I don't touch any of that. Everything's basically good. Range, I run auto because I'm typically up on pad when I'm running with the 2D sonar. Transmit, that turns the transducer off and on, so you know, if you want it to quit, you turn it off and then you hit on and then it continues. Then we've got sonar set up. This is going to be a very important one. Most of the time I'm running my scroll speed between 7 and 8. I typically keep mine on 8 because I'm actually running and I want to get fresh data. The next thing, noise reject. I leave interference off because I shouldn't have any interference from the trolling motor, from anything else that I'm using once I walk up to the front of my boat, because I'm in a 20-foot boat. If I wasn't, I would still put it in sleep mode, so it's kind of going to shut everything down, so I'm not getting interference and I'm not pulling unnecessary juice at the same time. Color limit, this is really going to blow everything out, take detail away, or not blow everything out, but this is going to give you, you know, less detail, kind of take stuff away. Leave this just on 0. Your 2D will do everything it needs to do. Smoothing, I turn it off. Surface noise, I leave on show because I want to get as much detail as I can up here, because a lot of times we get bait fish up here at the top part of the water column, like right here, that I want to be able to see. Time varying gain, I turn it off. Another personal preference. You know, if you are getting some interference or something like that, a lot of guys like to run it on low. Me personally, I run it off. Shouldn't really have any kind of interference or anything like that. Appearance, this is another thing that's kind of personal preference. I like running yellow. I like that old school Lowrance look. Some people like the blue. I like the yellow. Some people like the classic blue. They got all different colors here, but me personally, I like the yellow. I'm used to it. That's what my eyes are used to seeing. So that's what I run. Now, color gain, this is going to be another one of those things. I would leave it on default, but basically what it does, this is really going to brighten everything up. This is going to tone it down. It does a wonderful job on default, so just leave it on default. The next thing, A-scope. This is a big one right here, okay? So A-scope is one of those deals. This is what this is. This is what we use to get real live data. It's basically like a flasher, and you can actually watch your bait fall in real time under your boat. That's how we used to catch fish live that was under our boats, is using that. I like it because if for some reason I'm going faster than this can pick up and I see something starting to go up, then I kind of know, hey, I may be in shallow water or something's going on. I can see and pay attention to what's going on. It's kind of like a safety thing. And even when I'm up on the front deck, if I'm running 2D sonar, I run that A-scope. That way I can see my bait in real time. Depth line, you can show that and it'll tell you, you know, the depth line. Edge, you can turn that on. It's going to show you the edge of the bottom contour and stuff like that. I don't mess with that. Fish symbols, will leave that off. These arches and stuff, I mean, these are fish. So pick advance, I don't even know what that does, but it's set on 1-to-1. leave it on 1-to-1. Overlay data, you can choose whether, you know, you see your water temp, unit voltage, all that good stuff. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about, I've got this going on up here. Now, check this out. If I want to make where, you know, I doesn't have as much clutter on my screen, right? You can hit the 3 buttons and hit edit combo, and this allows me to change, you know, how far I want the sonar. I can split the screen more or less, whatever the case may be. I don't need that much 2D sonar, but now up here is where you change, you know, like if you want any information. But one of the things you can do is hit overlays, and then up here where it says data, just hit none. Turn that off, and when you go back and hit done, you know, we don't have all this over here. If you want that data, you can click right here on your 2D sonar, hit the 3 dots, hit sonar setup, go to appearance, I believe. Yeah, and go to overlay data, and then we can do our depth, we can do our water temp, unit voltage, and we can do speed, GPS speed. Boom. One of the other things I like to do, I like time of day, fishing tournament, anything like that. And then we can hit back all the way out, and bam, I've got all that information over there. I've got all my mapping, nothing in the way. And then, you know, my 2D sonar, I mean, I can pretty much still see everything. If you want to bring it out a little further, you can. And it's just a great way to, you know, use every bit of your screen without a lot of clutter. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to home. Let's go through, let's do this. Let's go through the down imaging, but I'm going to actually pull just the sonar up. There we go. All right, so your clear view, basically. So this is the one where, you know, you can really pinpoint those fish that you're looking for. You don't really have to mess with any of this. The only 2 things you're really going to be messing with, in my opinion, because I'm using down view typically to locate fish with my side imaging, okay? So you're going to use range, you're going to use, but the main 2 is brightness and contrast. So one of the easiest ways to understand contrast is going to blow out the picture. The higher you turn it up, look how bright it got, right? So it got super bright. What I'm going to do, what I like to do on new bodies of water, or when the water color changes and stuff like that, or there's sediment in the water, I blow it out to 100, and then I'll start dropping it down. Start dropping it down real slow until I can still see those hard edges, but we're going to take a little bit of that clutter off. So in this case, I would say about 75%. We're going to hit, I didn't mean to hit that, but what I would hit is back at 75%. Then brightness, okay? Brightness is exactly what it says it is. It's going to give you a lot of detail, okay? This is going to brighten everything up. This is kind of all that clutter. See, when I've got it on 100, see all these little specks in between the fish? Say I want to get all that home. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it down from 100, and I'd go probably, in this, if I was at this lake, I'd go about 92%. Bam, look, we eliminated all that clutter in the middle of the screen and stuff. We've got fine details with the fish. So that's perfect. Frequency, it's based on, you know, whether you're fishing shallow to deep water, but I would suggest just leaving it on chirp, 810 kilohertz. Fishing freshwater fishery should be good. Zoom, you can turn it on and then, you know, really zoom in and pick out everything. I typically just leave it off. Range, this is the one that I said, you know, we're gonna mess with. If I'm graphing a specific area, specific depth, right here it's showing 30 foot, so I would have this down at about, I would have it down to about 40 foot, just like that. And then that way I'm getting a good reading of the bottom, so I understand if it's hard or soft bottom, and then I can still see everything up here in the top part, okay? Now, if I'm just running, just turn it on auto and it'll adjust itself. It's not bad either way, but it's when you have a lot of changing depth, that's gonna be, you know, the big factor of getting every little detail as you're reading. Now the next, we're gonna go to clear view setup. Scroll speed, I've got it about the same. I want 8 if I'm going, you know, around that 3 to 5 mile an hour mark and I'm really trying to slow down. You may want to drop it down to 6. That way you can really pick it apart. Me personally, I typically keep it on 8, and then if I see something I really want to look at, I just go ahead and drop it back down to 6. And then, you know, you can kind of just go from there. It all depends. This is all going to be the same. Noise reject, all that stuff, leave it off. I don't want any of that extra stuff on there. You may want to turn it on if you're getting interference, but you shouldn't be, depending on how your boat's set up and all that stuff. Appearances is going to be a big one. A lot of people, you know, they change theirs depending on their eyes. Me personally, there's a few that I really like to use. Floodlight is a great one, especially on bright blue sunny days. The main one everybody runs is amber. That's a good one if your eyes is used to it. Another one that I really like to run is black emerald. On those bright blue sunny days, I can see very well with black emerald, and then on cloudy days, midnight blue. So that's all kind of personal preference. If it was me, I would either leave it on floodlight or amber most of the time. In this case, we're just going to leave it in amber, and then you can do the overlay data also if you want that stuff on there. We're going to back all the way out, and then you've got your alarms. You can set that up. I turn it all off. You've got your advanced bottom search limit, leave it on auto. Installation, don't do anything there, and that's pretty much it for your down scan. Now next we're going to go to the big one, which is side view. Side view, one of the easiest ways to remember everything. I'm going to give you, you know, I've always said whatever depth you're at, multiply it by 3, and you'll be able to choose the range you need to stay at. But a good soft spot to stay in between is 60 foot all the way out to 100 foot. It just kind of depends, okay, on the depth you're at. But a good rule of thumb is whatever depth you're in, multiply that by 3, and then round it up on here to whatever it is. But most of the time I'm going to keep this somewhere around 70 feet. That's kind of going to give me a little bit of the best of both worlds, anywhere between 65 to 70 foot. If you're just scanning, just looking, you're fishing your normal like 20 foot of water, then, you know, I would say just stay around that area and you should be good. You're going to get a lot of detail and you can cover a lot of water. Same way, contrast, blow it out, then we start climbing down, okay? In this case, probably be about the same. Yep, so about 75%, we'd hit back. Brightness, it's gonna be the same thing. We're gonna blow it out. It's gonna be very bright. I'm gonna start dropping this down. In this case, on this water in particular, I would turn this at about 97. It's gonna take a lot of that clutter out, and I can still see those fine details. Frequency, just leave it on chirp. You should be good as long as the water clarity. Zoom, same thing. I can zoom in, see what I'm looking at a lot better. We done went over range. Side view setup, scroll speed. This is the one I typically keep between 6 and 7, okay? 6 if I need to slow down and really pick apart everything I'm looking at. 7, 99% of the time when I'm just looking. Noise reject. TVG, you can just turn it off. Same thing. You shouldn't be getting any kind of interference or anything like that. Appearance, color schemes, it's gonna basically be the same thing. I really like floodlight. I really like amber and midnight blue, black emerald on real bright blue sunny days. You've got your depth line, you've got your range lines that'll tell you how far everything is from what you're looking at. I like to leave it off, that way I can get the most detail. I can see everything a lot better. View selection. Now, I've got a setting in mind where I've actually got it where you can turn just left on and you can turn just right on. And I've kind of got it set up to where a lot of times when I'm scanning, you know, down the side of a ledge or something like that, let's say I'm looking to the left, I'm going to hit view selection, and a lot of times I'll hit left. And then that way what happens is I'm just focusing on this side. It doesn't matter what's to the right of me, it's what's to the left of me, because that's what I'm looking for. And this will, you know, move over here, and then I get a lot more out of the screen. I can pay a close attention to stuff that I'm looking for. Alarms, installation, all that stuff's the same. You can just forget about that. And then your edit overlays. Edit overlays, I just kind of leave all that stuff off. Just because when I'm using my side imaging, but basically like when we go into appearance overlay data, typically what I like to do on these, I like to leave every one of these off, and that way I'm just getting I don't have any clutter. I don't have anything on my screen. I can mainly just focus on the side imaging. Now the big one, let's talk about live scope. Okay, so live scope, this is going to be one of those deals where a lot of it's going to be personal preference, what you're looking at, what you're looking for, stuff like that. Me personally, I've got mine set up to where I just, it's good for my eyes. So, you know, it just, there's certain settings you really need to pay attention to, and there's a lot of other settings that's going to be just personal preference. So the first thing, we're going to hit the menu button, and then it's going to pull up gain, right? So your gain, once again, that's going to give us all kinds of details, and it's really going to make everything pop. How strong that signal is, I guess you could say. And then we're going to start dropping that down from 100. In this case, I would go, me personally, I would, in this water, I'd probably go about, well, it disappeared on me. So we're in a different set of water. So I'd go down to about 70, 75 in this case, right here, and then hit back. Depth range, this is the one thing that you definitely need to change. It all depends on the water that I'm fishing. So right here, we're sitting at 25 foot. So in this case, I would go down to, okay, it done changed on us again. So this case, we're sitting at 60 foot. So I'd go about 70 foot, about 10 foot off of it. 12 foot is typically where I keep an eye on from, you know, the like just a basic average depth when you're choosing a depth range. Anywhere from 10 to 15 foot is usually perfect. You can read the bottom really well. And then your forward range, I do not leave it on auto. I typically run mine between 80 and 100 feet, okay? Most of the time I like 80 foot. If I'm fishing a real open water area, something like a highland reservoir, a lot of open water, then I'll bump it up to 100 foot. Those are usually real clear lakes and stuff like that. So, you know, 100 foot is typically usually really good, but I'm going to go with 80 in this instance. So let's go 80. And you can use this just about anywhere. It's just really adjusting that gain is going to be a big one. Sonar setup, appearance. Now color scheme, there's a couple. I mean, I like amber, I like copper, or not copper, I like amber, I like black emerald, and I like midnight blue. Floodlight is a big go-to for me. I really like it. It makes a lot of those hard edges pop for my eyes, but that's always going to be based on your eyes. Now, color limit, this is another one. So color limit, this is really going to make, you know, some stuff disappear and stuff, just like we talked about, you know, with the 2D and all that stuff. The more you turn it up, the less details and stuff you're going to get. I wish this image would just quit popping away and stuff like that. So like if I start turning this up, watch that bridge. Bam. See how details start, you know, disappearing. Me personally, I leave it on default. I don't touch it, but that's what it does. Trails off, bottom fill off. Let's go back to appearance. Okay, yeah. So trails off, bottom fill off. We're gonna go back, and then layout. Most of the time when you crank yours up, you're gonna have grid overlay on. I like taking it off. Don't like any kind of clutter on my screen. Beam icon, do head up. That's typically the way everybody's got their setup. On-screen control, show, or you can hit off. That's going to be those buttons down there at the bottom where you can change, you know, your forward and your down and stuff like that. Reverse range, I just leave it on default. Compress range, that's going to move that forward, but me, I personally like to leave it off. And then flip horizontal, you can flip it the opposite way if you want to do that. I don't. What we're going to do, we're going to hit back, and then you've got noise reject. Okay, noise reject, it's going to be the same thing. If you turn it off, it's going to reject a lot of noise and stuff like that. Some people run it on low. Me personally, I just run it off. I shouldn't have any noise issues. Ghost reject, leave it on auto. Time varying gain, the TVG, leave it off. Shouldn't have any issues with that. Overlay data, you can choose what you're dealing with here. Some people like to leave the depth up there. Me personally, I don't. I just kind of leave it the way it is. That way I get more out of my screen. Installation. So install depth, this is basically gonna tell your unit, you know, how far down your transducer is on your trailer motor. Stabilization, if you have a problem with your screen doing this number right here, you hit auto stabilize and it'll keep it you know, stabilize better. Calibrate compass, that's gonna calibrate everything. It kind of keeps your, once again, keeps your screen from doing this number right here. It just keeps everything calibrated. It takes just a few seconds, spin around in a circle a couple times. Once you go to calibrate, super easy. Orientation, forward, if you're on forward, down if you're on down. Focus, auto fresh, just leave that on there. And I mean, that's basically it. You don't really have to change anything in your main settings. When you go over here to your main settings, you don't really have to change anything here. Everything's great. It's pretty much fresh to run out of the box. Now what we're gonna do though, we're gonna go out of simulator mode, and then I'm gonna show you exactly how I have all my combos set up, okay? So one of the first ones I like to run is the fishing chart and then 2D sonar, and then I like to run fishing chart with 2D sonar and down view, and then just side imaging. And then this one's set to right side. So basically what this means is I've got a little bit of my map right here, and then the rest of my screen on this side is going to be the right side of my boat, me looking to the right with that side view that I was telling you about if I'm looking on one side in particular. Left side, it's the exact opposite if I'm looking on the left side. Now the next one's going to be just my navigation and then my down view. So, you know, that's basically it. And then, you know, with my with up front, so where my live scope and all that is, what I typically like to do, I'll run fishing chart and then I'll run live scope with my fishing chart all the way over to one side. Some people run split units. It's plenty of screen, so I don't need a couple inches. I'm using that much of my screen for my chart and the rest of it for my live scope. Now the other one that I set up is basically just like this, where it's my map and then it's my 2D sonar, but the one thing that I make sure that I do is up front is the exact opposite. So how I have all this map right here and a little bit of 2D sonar on the front, I have a lot of 2D sonar and a little bit of map, okay? So, I mean, it's very, very simple, guys. So guys, if you have any questions or you need any help with anything, feel free to drop a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I hope the video helped you. If it did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's a great way to help support the channel, and it's free. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm putting out videos every week on, you know, different things, fishing tips, tricks, goofy stuff, electronic breakdowns, boat walkthroughs, all different kinds of stuff, guys. So, you know, I really appreciate it. We're over 12,000 subscribers. Been killing it on views and stuff from the other social medias, including YouTube and stuff here lately, and I really appreciate every single one of y'all. And also thank you to Tolos, guys. Make sure to check out Tolos, especially if you got a trailer or you're looking for a trailer rental. Dump the corporate companies and just deal with real people like me and you. No corporate suits trying to upsell you a bunch of crap. So either way, guys, I'll see you next time.